Why can't you look at a periodic table anymore? I showed my little sister Deli her first chemical reaction after she threw her homework across the room screaming, I can't learn anything. Her ADHD brain that bounced between 1,000 thoughts suddenly locked onto the fizzing beaker like it was magic, her eyes wide with complete focus I'd never seen before. For an 11-year-old who'd been labeled unteachable by 3 different schools and cried herself to sleep most nights, this moment changed everything. She grabbed my hand with both of hers, looked up at me with tears streaming down her face and whispered, teach me everything you know. At first, Deli's dedication made me proud. Over winter break, she'd disappear straight into the garage, only coming out for bathroom breaks. Mom would mess with her hair when she brought her sandwiches, saying, my little scientist. Then one afternoon, I knocked to ask if she wanted lunch and got no answer. I peeked in and saw her hunched over, safety goggles on, surrounded by petri dishes growing mold and beakers filled with rotting organic compounds. My stomach turned. Dude, what's that smell? Deli shrugged. Whatever. I'm testing decomposition rates. All the real researchers work with gross stuff. She pulled up her experiment log. See? I'm documenting more than you ever did. I nodded, fully convinced this meant she was finally good at something, and placed the sandwich on an empty spot on the workbench. When I went back to MIT for spring semester, I left thinking she'd be fine. She finally had something she could do well. She had our parents. She'd be okay. I came home at the end of spring break expecting a happy family. Instead, I saw something much darker. The first thing that hit me was the sharp, sweet smell of chemicals when I opened the garage door. Failed experiments stacked everywhere, chemical stains all over. The place was a mess, and Deli clearly hadn't changed clothes in weeks. In fact, I swore she wore the same lab coat I gave her before I had left. Mom came up to me with tears on her face. I don't know what to do anymore. Later that night, Mom finally lost it and pulled the power breaker during a critical reaction. I heard crying from the garage as Deli fell apart over her ruined experiment. 6 months of data, gone, she whispered, then looked up at Mom with broken eyes. I was finally good at something, finally making you proud, and you destroyed it. Mom broke down, holding the breaker key while crying. After that, nobody touched Deli's lab again. I tried talking to her about safety, but she just stared at me with empty eyes. When I mentioned ventilation concerns, she started crying. You taught me this was my gift. Now you want to take it away too? Everyone always gives up on me. Her voice cracked. I thought you were different. Mom pulled me aside later, whispering, let her work. It's the only thing that makes her happy. I left after that, but guilt ate at me. So 2 weeks later, I drove back without warning with safety equipment, thinking I could help. The second I walked in, I knew something was wrong. This sweet chemical smell hit me hard, made my eyes water instantly. Mom? Dad? Nothing. Found them on the living room couch, both out cold, lips blue. I ran to the garage and kicked the door open. Deli was slumped over her workbench, these reactions still bubbling away, releasing this greenish fog. The ventilation fan she swore she'd install was still in the box, unopened. I dragged her out first, then ran back for our parents. Couldn't breathe, lungs on fire. Called 911 doing CPR on Dad while Deli started waking up on the driveway. What happened? She asked, then saw Mom. No. I sealed the door gaps. The gas wasn't supposed to. She crawled toward them, shaking bad. I was so careful. I measured everything perfectly. Paramedics showed up in full hazmat gear. 3 bodies on stretchers while Deli kept saying it was just sulfur compounds. Just a simple synthesis. I followed all your instructions. Cops found her notebooks filled with calculations for stuff she never should have been doing. The last entry said, increased concentration for better yield. Sealed workspace to contain fumes. We'll show everyone I'm a real scientist. Mom died in the ambulance. Dad never woke up. Deli survived, but the lack of oxygen messed up her brain pretty bad. Deli's in a facility now with permanent brain damage. Still writes me shaky letters. Once my hands heal, you'll teach me more reactions. Teacher and student, right? I quit chemistry, moved across the country. Sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m. smelling that sweet gas that killed my parents.